Hold him down.
The film begins by introducing Chev Chelios, who wakes up in his bed feeling unusually weak and disoriented. Stumbling into the living room, he notices a CD labeled "F you left for him." Curious, he plays it and watches a video message recorded by Ricky Verona. In the footage, Ricky explains that he poisoned Chev while he was unconscious, injecting him with a lethal substance that is the reason he feels so sick. Ricky gleefully tells him that he has less than an hour left to live, and this is revenge for the assassination of Don Kim. Shaken and furious, Chev smashes his television into pieces before storming out of his apartment. Outside in the parking lot, he recklessly steps on cars to reach his vehicle and even runs over a man who dares to complain. While driving, he calls his streetwise contact Kalo and orders him to track down Ricky's whereabouts so he can get his revenge. But as Chev drives, his heartbeat slows dangerously, nearly causing him to black out at the wheel. Barely managing to stay conscious, he makes it to a nightclub where he storms inside, grabs the club owner, and holds him at gunpoint demanding Ricky's location. The owner, however, claims ignorance. Disappointed but unwilling to waste time, Chev leaves and calls his personal physician, Dr. Miles. Explaining his symptoms, Chev learns the truth. He has indeed been poisoned with the Chinese cocktail, a toxin designed to stop adrenaline production in the body. Miles warns that Chev must constantly keep his adrenaline up to stay alive, otherwise the poison will kill him instantly. The doctor, however, is currently out of town and promises to return in a few hours. Chev hangs up but soon hears police sirens and sees a convoy of patrol cars behind him. Using the chase to his advantage, he accelerates to raise his adrenaline. Instead of stopping, he crashes his car directly into a shopping mall, leading the officers into a chaotic pursuit. After wrecking the car on an escalator, he escapes through a service exit and hijacks a taxi by yanking a passenger out of the back seat. Inside, he forces the cabbie to drive while he jerks his body around to keep his energy high. After a quick stop at a supermarket, Chev threatens the cashier at gunpoint, grabs armfuls of energy drinks, and leaves in the taxi headed to Carlito's mansion. At the poolside, Chev confronts his boss and quickly realizes Carlito orchestrated his poisoning. Since Don Kim's assassination had triggered retaliation from Chinese gangs, Carlito decided to betray Chev as a peace offering to the rivals. Furious at this revelation, Chev storms out, steals the cab he arrived in, and drives off. Soon after, Dr. Miles calls him back, advising him to obtain epinephrine injections, a synthetic form of adrenaline, from a hospital. Just then, Kalo calls, informing Chev that Ricky's brother, Alex, has been spotted at a local diner. Chev immediately heads there, ambushes Alex, and brutally severs his hand with a cleaver before demanding information about Ricky. Despite his injury, Alex refuses to betray his brother and fights back, but Kalo intervenes, striking Alex with a wooden stick. Distracted, Alex is then shot dead by Chev. Chev proceeds to a hospital, disguising himself as a patient to avoid detection. But when police officers recognize him, he bolts, sprinting down corridors and staircases with the cops in pursuit. Spotting a group of medics, he grabs a nurse at gunpoint and demands epinephrine. Terrified, the nurse rummages through a stretcher cart and hands him a vial. Feeling his heartbeat drop again, Chev forces the nurse to shock him with a defibrillator. The blast throws him back into an elevator, where he fends off the pursuing officers with gunfire before ejecting a patient and descending. Inside, he hurriedly injects himself with the drug but takes far too much, sending his body into overdrive. Chev bursts into the streets hyperactive, running wildly until he notices a crowd watching a live TV broadcast announcing a citywide manhunt for him. Meanwhile, Ricky learns of his brother's death when Alex's severed hand is delivered to him. Enraged, Ricky swears to finish Chev once and for all. Across the city, Chev calls his girlfriend Eve, concerned for her safety. Relieved to hear her voice, he promises to see her soon. When he arrives at her place on a stolen police motorcycle, he urges her to get ready. On their way out, Chev discreetly kills one of Ricky's men and dumps the body, then takes Eve to a restaurant. During their meal, he confesses his double life as a contract killer and explains the dire situation he is in. Eve, however, thinks he is lying to break up with her and storms out, refusing to believe him. On the street, Chev collapses as his pulse slows again. To keep himself alive, he convinces Eve to engage in a sexual act in the middle of the crowded street. At first, she refuses, calling him insane, but eventually gives in, and the two attract a cheering crowd as Chev's adrenaline surges back. Right afterward, Chelios calls with Ricky's exact location, a nearby warehouse. Chev hastily departs, leaving Eve behind, and arrives to find Carlito's henchmen waiting, and Chelios dead. Realizing Carlito betrayed him again, Chev engages the thugs in a bloody gunfight, using Chelios' corpse as a shield. During the chaos, Eve unexpectedly appears in the elevator. Chev rushes to her but is shot in the leg before they manage to escape. On the ground floor, he brutally disables another thug using a sewing machine before fleeing with Eve in a stolen car. Carlito's men give chase in a high-speed pursuit, but Chev fights back with gunfire, eventually causing the pursuers' cars to crash. After escaping, he contacts Dr. Miles again, who has finally returned. At the doctor's home, Chev receives an adrenaline 4 drip to stall the poison, but Miles admits that no cure exists. Chev only has hours left to live. He even offers a painless way out, but Chev refuses, determined to settle things with Ricky. Calling Ricky directly, Chev arranges a meeting at a hotel. After saying a heartfelt goodbye to Eve, he arms himself and heads to the rendezvous. At the top floor, he is searched and disarmed before being escorted into a room where Ricky and Carlito are waiting together. Carlito prepares another syringe of the Chinese cocktail, intending to inject Chev with a final fatal dose. But before they can act, a shot rings out. One of Carlito's men drops dead, killed by members of a rival gang, led by none other than Don Kim, who is very much alive. A flashback reveals that Chev never actually killed Kim. Instead, he faked the assassination and sent Kim into hiding. Now, grateful, Kim has returned with his men to repay the favor. A massive gunfight erupts between Carlito's cartel and Kim's Chinese gang. In the chaos, Chev hurls a bottle at Ricky, severing his fingers, while Carlito flees toward the rooftop where a helicopter awaits. Chev chases him, but Ricky ambushes Chev from behind and injects him with a second dose of poison. Carlito berates Ricky for abandoning him, prompting Ricky to shoot him dead and toss his body out of the helicopter. As the chopper lifts off, Chev grabs onto it and battles Ricky in a desperate aerial fight. High above the city, Chev ultimately breaks Ricky's neck, avenging himself at last. Both men plummet from the helicopter. Midair, Chev stares directly at the camera, blinking as he slams onto a car and bounces to the pavement. The movie ends with Chev lying on the ground, eyes open, hinting that he has somehow survived,